Welcome to the Gravel Lot, the place where bikes are for everyone.
The Gravel Lot podcast is presented by Be Free Ride Bikes Apparel, providing a fully customized cycling apparel experience to provide you and your team the attention to detail and personal touch that you deserve.
And also brought to you by Grimpour Brothers Coffee, offering handmade coffee roasted weekly in small batches to give you the finest quality coffee to start your day. Choose their subscription service and earn your free bag of coffee today.
Also by BioWheels Fit Studio and Workshop in Cincinnati, Ohio, offering you a full host of bike fitting services intended to provide the cycling enthusiast with the most efficient, comfortable, and sustainable bike fit they have ever had.
And by the Ritual All Natural Skincare, providing small batch, handmade chamois cream, custom blended for your team or shop right here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Contact us today to learn more.
And by Hand Up Gloves. Great gear, better times. Providing a wide range of apparel for bikes, snow sports, and golf in multiple designs and fits to let your personality shine.
Our goal with the Gravel Lot is to inspire cyclists of all stripes to ride bikes, share their story, and have fun. We love all bikes and anyone who wants to ride them. So no matter where you sit on the spectrum of bikes, we'll always have a place for you in the Gravel Lot.
And now, the hosts of TGL, John Woolry and Doug McClintock.
Hello and welcome back to the Gravel Lot, the podcast for all bikes, storytelling, and the place where no matter what ride you're on, you will always have a home here. I am, what did we say we were going to say? I am outgoing John, and you are unreliable
Doug.
Regardless, we are glad that you found us. So whether you are an existing Pebble or you are new to the show, and if you believe in what we are doing and you enjoy hearing the stories that we share and allow people to tell, hit the like button, subscribe, share us with your friends, all your bike friends, all your non-bike friends who like podcasts or like live streams like this one. And let's grow this thing because I think we all need that as we start to feel like we're going back to normal, as we're hopefully getting out of this pandemic thing, and hopefully you're kind of coming out of your pandemic bubble a little bit too. So now that we're off and running, we encourage you to engage with us along the way, whether it's this week, next week, during the show. Send us your comments. Follow us on all the socials. And if you want to, you can become one of our most loyal Pebbles, and you can become a Patreon that is supporting this show as well as a lot of the other projects that we are working on, like Girls Moving Mountains, the Beeline,
Yeah.
Pink Blue White, and there's a couple others that are still bubbling on the back burner that we're hoping to launch this summer.
Yeah, so make sure you head on over to our Patreon and become a patron today. We would love to have you at any dollar amount. Thank you for bringing the show to yourself effectively. We do the work, but y'all help us make this possible. Make sure we have internet and all the things that we need to do the actual thing of making the thing and bringing it to you. So thank all of you patrons who are already there. And if you want to become a patron, head on over to Patreon and do that. We will be updating. I've been really bad about this, but I will be doing it. We will do some reaction. Some things needed a couple weeks to stew, but we'll get some reaction videos cut this week and up for you patrons over there. You can see AMA videos that we're doing. We'll be posting questions that you all have, and you can always leave any of those questions if you wish at our phone number 513-400-5577, 513-400-5577. Leave us a voicemail. Let us know what you want on the show. Ask us questions. We will try to address those in that space. So make sure to do that. We'll be excited to have you. And of course, thank you to everybody who is already a supporter. You are making this actually be able to move along. We're real appreciative of that.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think that's all the business, John, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, we don't, air quotes, business. We don't do business.
No briefcases no. and suit clothes. So with that being said, how has your ride been this week, John?
It's been all right. It's starting to turn and get nice out. We're getting some of those Chamber of Commerce days, as I like to say. Today was that is a phrase
you do enjoy.
Absolutely gorgeous, 82 degrees and some white puffy clouds out in the skies here in Southwest Ohio. But honestly, Doug, I'm more looking forward to this coming weekend with the Black Fork Gravel Grinder. I had a lot of fun at the Cora gravel ride. Getting to know people, doing we call it the shorter route, but we were still out for 4 hours, so it's not a short day on the bike.
Yeah, no.
And we're gonna do the 30-mile route, which is the mid-level route for the Black Fork. But I'm really, really excited to be back doing events and be back, hopefully being around people in as safe a way as possible. And you and I are going to be leading a group of whoever wants to join us for a Black Fork is set up as a competitive event, but we're trying to lead a group that is just wants people that want to have fun and ride their bike and enjoy the experience of the route that Matt and Jay have put together. And we're really, really excited for that.
Yeah, so I say that is what I'm excited about and stoked about, to go out and get to be around other people. I'm safely vaccinated. John is as well. But the COVID protocols they've put in place are great. Everybody's masked if they are not on the bike specifically, masked at aid stations, sanitizer. Like, they're doing a really good job. The way they've done check-in is set up is really cool. So we're really excited to see our Ohio family, fellow TGL home skillet and one host of the Girls Moving Mountains, Jen Malik. I'm hoping to get to see some fantastic antics from her.
We'll see her.
She will be happy.
We'll see her for a minute at the beginning.
And then
maybe we'll see her again when she steps up on the podium.
That's what I'm hoping for.
That's what I'm hoping. Try and do real bike racing and we're just gonna go ride.
We're not going to do that, and I'm excited to not do that. I'm excited to be around a bunch of people that I enjoy being around and see them again and catch up with them. And just that community's been real lacking in that way for the past year and a half. So it's just going to be nice to get back to that a little bit safely.
And I think you brought up an important point that we wouldn't be doing this willy-nilly. We wouldn't be doing this if Ohio wasn't trending down, if Matt and Jay and everybody that's volunteering for Black Fork wasn't putting all of the protocols in place to try and do this as safely as possibly. Even though the statistics and the math is starting to kind of show glimmers of hope, that's when things can kind of turn. So it's still keeping the foot on the gas in terms of trying to be as safe as possible and instill all of those things. But let's get back to enjoying each other, and let's get back to seeing each other face to face rather than just doing this.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're at.
Plus, we
CDC
get
with
to
good
hang out with you
recommendations
guys.
today. They said we can go outside and be outside with other vaccinated folks. And if I'm going to be around folks who are not vaccinated, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to mask up just to make them feel comfortable, so that they know I don't got COVID, because I don't have a sign on me that says I've got my vaccine. Although
Scarlet,
maybe
yeah,
someone will. So no one's getting scarlet letters. It's not what we're doing
yeah.
around here. So it's exciting, folks. If you're going to be at Black Fork, make sure to hit John and I up. Send us a message. Let us know you're going to be there so we can catch up with you and touch base with all our Pebbles at the event. We would love to see you. Let's make sure to link that up. But I would like now to make sure to bring in our guests, because we have talked for long enough. And we are super, super excited to have this week's guest back with us. He originally joined us back in season 2, and since
In
then,
the before times.
yeah,
Yes.
way before times. But since then, he has graduated college. He's bought a house. He got a dog, and just started his own cyclocross program, because that's what you do. So we're gonna dig into all of that and kind of catch up with our buddy and good friend Brannan Fix. Welcome back to the Gravel Out, Brannan.
Thanks, guys. It's good to see you guys. I kind of missed seeing you guys in Cincinnati last year.
Yeah.
COVID kind of cut that a little short. So it's good to catch up with you guys here before I see you in October.
Yeah, we will definitely be seeing you in October. It looks like races are going to happen. Everybody, you're almost vaccinated, right?
Everybody knocking on wood.
Yeah. Things are moving forwards. Good things are trending. Let's just all stay healthy in that space. So, last time we talked to you, you were finishing up school. You were racing with Alpha Groove Subaru, and Adam Rakabinski and the entire crew over there, Turner and Gage and Katie, and everything kind of changed into that next season. You were moving into a different space in your career and your life. What was that kind of, because leaving a program that you've been with for quite some time has got to be a change. What was that process like for you, and kind of some of the feelings and things around the actual doing of it?
Yeah, that's one we talked about a lot. That year that I became an elite, and the team changed. Lauren Zerner came on, Turner was on there, Ross Elwood was on there.
Yeah.
And it was a really big change from kind of growing up driving around the country with Adam and Gage and Katie.
Eating burritos.
Yeah. So the change was significant. I went from seeing Gage on a pretty frequent basis. I mean, he lives with Zoe and I now, so I see him still on a frequent basis, but it went from seeing him a lot to not seeing him at all. And being a leader on the team in a way that I was no longer, I'm going to choose my words here very carefully. I wasn't a peer to people like Lauren and Ross because I didn't grow up with them. Right. And so it put me in a weird leadership position, with people that I didn't really have a super close relationship with. And so that was a really challenging transition that year, because it put me in a position that I hadn't been in before. I had to make an impact.
How was it navigating that? I mean, there's no manual for becoming a leader. Like, there's some hints, but there's no manual. What was that like for you?
It was very challenging, to say the least. I think Adam and I sat down. So that year that I left the program, that prior January, we went to Belgium, me, Turner, Ross, Adam, Bill from Crosshairs. And we went, and Turner and I raced. Ross had broken his shoulder or his collarbone in nationals, so he didn't get to race. But we went to Belgium, and while we were there, we got to reflect a lot on the season. And one of the biggest things was expectations weren't set in a clear manner, but I also just never figured out how to connect with Lauren, who is 6 years younger than me. and so it was a really difficult dynamic for me to navigate as someone that was graduating college, hanging out every weekend with someone who was a junior in high school. And so it was a challenge for sure from a maturity standpoint, but also from a racing standpoint for me, because I went from hanging out with people who knew exactly what was expected of them on race weekends to a more fluid and changing dynamic every weekend. And to be honest with you, we never got on top of it. I never really found a comfortable way to be a leader in that environment, and didn't do it successfully, unfortunately. And it just happens like that.
Do you think that in that situation, I guess it's more what do you take away now? Here we are, April 2021. Looking back on those things, what are some of your personal takeaways that, okay, this is what Bran, learned about myself?
I think one of the biggest things I learned is that as a leader, I have to open up a lot more. I can't be super rigid with my personal expectations for myself and put those expectations onto other people. I have to open up and laugh and joke a lot more and just take things as they come, instead of try to impose what I see as the correct way to go about something. And that's a really difficult balance too, because it was Lauren's first year racing UCI races. I was on year 7 of racing UCI races.
Yeah.
And so for me, I had a way that things were done, and I'd done them that way for 5 years, 6 years. And to change that was really difficult for me. And so that was one of the biggest inflection points was, okay, I have to be willing to be more engaging and less stringent for how I view myself in a leadership role. And that was really difficult.
I wonder how many people are listening to this, whether it's the live stream right now or when we release this as a pod, because I'm thinking back to my career and some of the, whether it's direct managers or VP executive levels that have come across my kind of world and have been in that position for the first time, and you watch them struggle with the exact same thing. And it's something I feel like we all, when you get into that position where others are looking to you for some sort of guidance, you kind of have to struggle with what are those polarities of can I make the rest of the world bend to my will? And then you realize, no, you can't, and that everyone is a little bit different than you. Yeah. And then you kind of find somewhere in the middle the fluidity of what works for them, but also what allows you to still be successful at what you're doing.
How old were you at that moment in time?
Now I have to do math. I would have been 22.
22. Okay.
I was going to say
pretty awesome learning that at 22. A lot of people don't learn that at 42.
Yeah,
right. But also underscoring the fact that this is 6 years when you get to Doug and I's ripe old age. 6 years doesn't feel like a lot, but it's more than a quarter of your life. Like think about how different I was in the middle of high school versus when I'm getting ready to graduate college. Like I'm a completely different person, and I'm sure you were too when you were that age and you were first getting into UCI racing and kind of having, the eye-opening experiences of all of those things. So it's easy to forget how different the world is through those two lenses.
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing that I learned about myself is that I'm a much better leader of peers than I am a middle manager, right? Like I'm a leader in my group with Gage and Katie because they see me as being able to make the right decisions and making those choices as a leader, as a peer. But when I feel like we're in a different maturity bracket, or there is a difference in how experienced we are, I struggle in that leadership role, and that's something that has followed me now. To jump ahead a little bit, I'm coaching high school mountain bike, and to be coaching kids who are 14, who are literally 9 and 10 years younger than me, and to put myself back in their shoes is really a challenge, to lead in an articulate way, to convey any sort of messaging other than, yeah, follow me and we'll go have fun, and that's, there's two polar opposites there.
Sure. I think there's some stuff I want to explore in there, because I think what you're doing right now in coaching high school mountain bike, I think we want to touch on that deeply, but I want to know if this is kind of that experience, part of the experience of that last year as you're leaving the program. Does it give you a weird taste in your mouth on the exit? Because you've, like, I'm not saying it would have necessarily, created an overarching feeling, but was it kind of make the exit more awkward than you thought it would have been?
No, it didn't really make the exit awkward. It wasn't like a fairy tale ending, that's for sure. But
well, yeah.
Well, those don't exist in reality.
Yeah,
generally.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, but throughout that 5 years, the biggest driver for that program, it was the friendships, but it was also having someone like Adam, who ran the program, for anyone that doesn't know, having that longer term relationship with someone who is, I am going to use the word visionary because I think that's funny.
Good. We'll message him and tell him that you use.
Yeah, he's a visionary. But having a relationship with someone like that, is something that stays with you a lot longer than who you were around as a teammate. Unfortunately, or fortunately. And so that was the biggest thing about that year, was I learned a lot about myself because I didn't have Gage and Katie there to deflect humor off of and, just be the three goofballs that mess around and get good results. Right. Yeah, I didn't have that.
And that's the three of you for sure.
Yeah. And so it taught me a lot, but it also helped me, I think, continue to build my relationship with Adam in a way that we hadn't done previously.
That's awesome. I really like that there's that opportunity for growth in a different way that you may not have had if the composition had remained the same. And I kind of want to bring up our mutual friend, Colorado McConaughey, and he was kind of in the mix traveling with y'all, Mr. Jake Wells. Were there any times that you were like, Jake is one of the most intuitive, like, emotional people that I know.
He's easy to connect with.
Right. 100%. Like, and here's a person who is a business owner and just like Adam, but may provide a different perspective. Were these things that you talked through with him in this space as you're trying to navigate this stuff?
Yeah, but it was more griping. It wasn't as much.
Oh, I can see him responding to it too. Like, yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head with that one. Yeah, there wasn't much like, I think if we sat down now and had a conversation about it, hindsight's a blessing. But, I think in some ways it kind of felt like one of those people like Gage or Katie, where I could kind of like mess around with and deflect some of the responsibility or like whatever I had built up.
Not your boss. You're not like, oh, it's my boss, Adam, and I got to make sure that I do the things that Adam expects of me in the same relationship way.
Yeah. Well, and there was a weird dynamic too, because my relationship with Adam and Jake had been built up over those prior 2 years. Right. And so, it wasn't two camps, but it was two ways that I felt, because for Adam's side of it, he's trying to manage this program with new people on it, and me not pulling my weight as a leader means that he has to do more on that side of it. And so I have two very different relationships. I have the relationship where I need to figure out how to step up as a leader, but then I also have the relationship with Adam where it was the last 4 years of messing around and joking around. Yeah. And it was a really difficult space to navigate in that regard, especially when you add Jake on the mix, because all I've ever known with Jake is having fun and messing around.
Right.
you know, and I'm never not going to know that with Jake, because that's just who he
That's
is.
just how he's built.
Yeah. So okay, so this whole season, we'll call it a learning experience. I in my heart of hearts, I feel like you're probably being hard on yourself in terms of like you looking back on it, and maybe you wanting to always do 10/10 and maybe you got to 8/10 and that's unacceptable, and you're looking back on it and it's like, oh man, I didn't do a very good job. But from Adam's perspective, that's one of the struggles of creating, like we see this with the Lionhearts here in Cincinnati, where as kids get towards the tippy top of that program, they start being naturally the mentors of the younger kids coming into the program. Whether they like it or not, there's modeling that happens, whether, you know, the little ones are watching the bigger ones, whether
Positive
they're
or
specifically, yeah, whether they're actually like sitting them down and saying, you do it this way, you don't do it that way, or just watching what they're doing and watching how they're preparing and things like that. So I have a feeling that because of all of your experience beforehand, they were learning a lot, just kind of osmosis wise, learning from you. But like factoring all of these things in, maybe not yet, but at some point, probably down the road, you'll look at this as this is one of those like intervals in your life that really made you stronger and made you a better person. But then leaving that program and being out on your own, suddenly you need to establish all of these new relationships, and you need to establish, who am I going to be on my own, but I need support from all of these other people. So there's a lot that happens in a very short amount of time for you that are, you know, fairly large milestones for us in terms of like graduating school and, you know, moving out and finding your own
human.
Right. For any human, these are big moments of kind of going out into the world, and you're not kind of under the thumb of like, well, I'm still a college student. It's like, no, I'm like, you're a grown ass adult. Like, it's time to go out into the real world. And you're also leaving kind of the cocoon of Alpha Groove Subaru and trying to figure out what you're going to do on your own. So there's gotta be a lot of things ping ponging around your head at this time. So kind of walk us through the process from, okay, well, I'm leaving this program and then all these other changes are happening. What are the things that are stable? What are the things that I feel like I can control? And then how do you go about setting out to start, this is what's going to be next for me?
Yeah, I'll walk you through it in the best I can, but I will say the biggest thing that I felt
necessary.
Okay, perfect. Well, and that was one of the other big things about my last year on Alpha was I did feel a certain amount of weight of what happens after this, right? Because I wasn't a U23 anymore. Adam extended the length of the program to include me,
right?
Because I didn't have anything going the year after that. A, there weren't any teams, and B, I hadn't been responsible enough to, maybe not responsible enough, but on the ball enough to set anything up for myself.
Well, yeah, and you also had a pretty smoking ride at Louisville, so just saying.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, that was the cherry on top for that year. But that loomed over me a lot that season. You know, I think whether I knew it or not, it did cause some amount of anxiety in terms of I've had it really good and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I think that is a big piece of why I was a poor leader, because I was worried about what was going to happen next for me. And at the time I didn't really feel like I could control it, even though everything is in that regard is under my control, right? Creating a team, reaching out to people, creating relationships, that's 100% controllable by me. Whether people help me or not is not,
right.
You know, I can't do anything there.
Sure.
Good. I've got some questions I need to ask you, and I need you to line some stuff up for me. So if you figured that out, let me know.
Don't worry. You'll be the first to know if I figure that out.
Fantastic.
But that loomed over me a lot. And it honestly, I was late to the game even this last year during the pandemic of setting my program up. You know, in some ways, the pandemic was nice because I got to, you know, cast blame on it. But in reality, that had been looming over me for a long time. And that was a really big transition from having Adam line up travel and sponsors and having what is the best equipment in the game at the time for me, and all those things I suddenly had to do on my own, and that loomed over me and gave me a lot of anxiety. And so from a transitional standpoint, I really didn't even think about like being done with school, because in the spring we got back from Belgium and then I had a semester of school left, and halfway through that semester it transitioned to all online. And I was also only taking 6 credits. Albeit they're the final 2 classes of my business degree, but
Sure.
you know, the biggest thing that I felt looming over me was a transition in my sporting life.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't really get solved, as if it's ever solved, until May. I didn't really feel comfortable in the role of creating relationships for myself instead of relying on someone else until May of that year. It happened to coincide with moving back to Fort Collins and graduating school. So all 3 kind of happened at the same time. And so from a processing standpoint, it didn't really click that all 3 of those milestones were happening. It was like, cool, next thing. Because it was just a really big transition during that time.
Yeah, you're moving away from school. You and Zoe bought a house. So there's all of that. And as homeowners, like, that is a whole new freaking world, like inspections, and like now someone has to mow. I don't know if you have grass. All I know is that you have snow and a cyclocross course out back in the snow, and that's it.
Yes.
But like there's all of those pressures and all of those other things. I find it interesting that you were just like, no, these were the things I was clicking off. This is what I was doing. Even when we were in a time where things looked like no one knows what will happen in the fall. I find it impressive that you were still following through in that space. But you said May was critical for you. What do you think about that moment in May made you feel like this is all, like, now I've caught myself up to this spot where I feel like I've done a thing? What was the seminal moment for you in that?
As petty as it sounds to say, I had bikes to ride for the next cyclocross season. And at that point, we thought it was going to happen, and that was the last big hurdle that I felt like I had. Graduating school, for me wasn't a huge hurdle. I didn't struggle my last semester. It was Zoom school online. I felt very confident in my ability to do that. Moving back to town in Fort Collins was one of those things that was like, well, it's going to happen. Like, it's going to happen in 30 days from now. We're just going to do it. We have 30 days to pack and get out, and that's it. But really the last thing that was like weighing over me that I felt like I was lacking control in was, okay, what's going to happen in September? Like, am I going to be able to race my bike? Am I going to have bikes? Am I going to have equipment? Am I going to have support? And as stupid bike racer as that is to say, that was the last thing where it was like, cool, all 3 of those things are happening and we're good to go. And then during the summer, it became apparent we weren't going to race bikes. And suddenly it was once again like, oh, cool. What are we going to do? Like, what's next? Like, what do I have to look forward to?
So for you, was it
Brandon? This podcast is
right.
Kept me going, boys.
Making content. So for you, was it somebody actually saying yes, or was it the process of you kind of coming into your own as somebody that was self-advocating for Brannan, the PR agent, as Brannan, the athlete?
It was 100% the latter. One of the things that I think that Adam will agree with me on over my years on the team, and even now, is I'm pretty poor at making connections. I'm a little skittish to approach people. And so because of that, I didn't really make a lot of industry connections in my time on the team, because part of it I was comfortable, and then the other part of it as I was really focused on bike racing. And so I felt like I didn't know how to do it, even though I knew how to do it. I felt very out of control when I was advocating for myself in a way that I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. And once I had lined everything up and had advocated for myself that much, I felt like it had clicked. Like, oh, okay, that's what it takes for me to do that. And I'm still not comfortable doing it. I don't know if I'll ever be comfortable doing it. But that was one of those moments in May where it was like, oh, I can actually do that for myself. I'm less scared next time I have to do it.
It's interesting, and I'm not going to ask you for your star chart. I'm curious to know what sign you are, but like I find it fascinating that the spot for you is around how you feel you're not a good enough advocate or not a person that's able to connect, when I would actually say the opposite of you as the person that I know. I feel like from the moment you involve yourself in someone's life, you are an immediately connective person. And do you feel that it is more that you just didn't take those shots in those spaces because you were focused elsewhere?
No, I think I was scared to do it. I don't think it was a focus thing. I think it was, I'm not going to say anxiety of doing it, but Zoe and I have been joking about this a lot lately. I'm kind of a loose cannon in terms of how I interact with people. It's either going to be really subdued, and because I'm focused, it's like a really curt interaction, or it's going to be me when I interact with Jake doing silly voices and messing around. And so I've always been a little uncomfortable trying to make connections where I don't feel entirely in control of, like, well, how am I going to come off to this person? Which is, it's just a PR problem that I've made up for myself. But it was one of those things where it's like, well, I have to do this now. And how do I open myself up like that to connect with people? It's a similar problem to me being a leader in my last team on the program. Was, how do I really open up and show people who I am without being too withdrawn or too upfront,
Yeah.
And so that's been a big learning curve in general.
It's a good one though, because you really get to like dig into like your own like psyche in some ways and really break it down. It's hard and it's tough to go through, but when you start to learn those things, you realize there is a way for you to wind that path that belongs to Brannan, as opposed to winding the path that belongs to John or Doug. You have to.
So let me ask this: in doing this, have you found whatever that voice is? And I can do this in my own way. I don't need to do it the way that Doug told me to do it, or the way that Jeremy told me to do it. I can go do it in my own way. So I am being me, but I'm hitting that middle ground of somebody that's relatable and they get to see who I am without like kind of going off the rails, as it were.
I think I found it, and it comes in just being honest. That's the biggest one for me is, and as bad as it is sound, if I want to interact with someone, I'm going to interact with them. And if I'm too focused on something else, I'm going to be honest that I'm focused on that thing. And I really haven't found the magic bullet or potion or whatever it is in that regard.
Never will.
I never will.
Well, let's be real. There's not like a J-Pow isn't born every day. Somebody that's like that outgoing, that gregarious, and like knows everybody's name within a 5-mile radius. Like those people aren't made often. And I feel like there's a lot more people like you that are a little more introverted in bike racing than there are him.
The opposite.
Yeah, and I think that's a focus thing. I think, I'm not saying someone like Jeremy Powers wasn't focused on what he was doing, but there's certain people that can switch in and out of that focus extremely quickly. And I know I'm not one of those people. Like, I think, as a good example, the morning that I won the UCI race in Boulder, we were staying at Adam's house that night because it's like 40 minutes away from Belmont, or however far, close enough where we could all kind of be in the same group and interact. The morning of that race, I was extremely focused to the point where I wasn't pulling my weight. Like I didn't do the dishes after breakfast, and I got called out on it, and then I was an asshole back to. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to use that word.
You're fine.
I'll bleep it later. I'll bleep it.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'll go back in the live and do it. To the point where they called me out and was like, you didn't pull your weight, you didn't do dishes, you're being a jerk this morning. But it was one of those things where I felt how focused I was, and I can't switch in and out of like doing everyday tasks or laughing and joking from my focus space. And so finding a way to interact with people where I can be honest like that and then approach it from a different direction is super key to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's really hard during a pandemic too.
Oh no, like John, right before the show, John and I were talking about all this, about where our batteries are and how we're feeling charged or uncharged and the things that we're struggling with. I mean, we're still, all of us, like digesting the past year and a half of our lives in filleting ourselves in front of everyone all the time, because this is the only media way we have to see people. So hopefully everyone getting vaccinated. If you have not got your vaccine, go get your
Come ride bikes with us. We want to ride bikes with you.
Bikes with us and Brannan. Like, this is important. This will make you feel better. You will feel better. But you know, when you're going through these transitional periods and you all this stuff is happening, all this stuff is piling, you're clicking all this off, you've locked down sponsorship, and you've built a nice little kind of nest around yourself. And then the season says, nah, you're done. This ain't happening. Everyone has to stay in their house. We're gonna like nail gun everyone in with, plot. You decided to make some changes and pivot in a way that I think was you having fun. It seemed like every time I was on social media, it was you having fun, living your life. You, Zoe, Lily, new addition to the family, which we love. We love dogs. And
Me too.
So on social media this week. And you're building stupid snow cross courses in the backyard, like, and making really fun and engaging content that feels like Brannan. How did that come about to like try to find a place of joy in all of this?
Well, thank you, first of all, for saying it was fun and engaging. I was hoping it would be in some form, because, one of the biggest things that I feel is lacking in our sport lately, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but like if you look at Behind the Barriers with Jeremy, when is the last time cyclocross has felt that contagious of a fun? It hasn't for a long time.
Yeah. No,
right? Like 100%, like from my viewpoint even.
And I think you could probably even go a step, like, and maybe this is me projecting my own personal bias on it, but when they moved from focusing on Jeremy or the individual racers in season 3 or whatever, and then they went to like the race coverage, it changed the dynamic of what that thing felt like, and it felt like it was more ESPN and less
Jackass.
Like,
yeah.
Yes, some form of that, but like
correct.
You felt like you knew Jeremy, you felt like you knew Tim and Jamie and Stu and those people that were in that world, because it was recording these sort of conversations as they just acted a fool and were just regular human beings. And then it shifted to a lot of money bringing these live events, which was an amazing feat, but it just changed that dynamic and made it feel less attainable, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I hear you 100% on that. And we could go down a really, really deep rabbit hole of how to improve this sport from a content basis alone.
Oh, yes.
The racing is always been engaging. Mm-hmm. Cyclocross racing hasn't changed in 40 years, really. I mean, what have we done? Add disc brakes and electronic shifting. It's the same cyclocross racing.
Right.
What's changed is how it's portrayed. Because as bad as it is to say, I don't think the average American wants to watch a live stream of the race. They want to see people having fun and feel like there was an insight to the race rather than just see them go around in a circle. So that's a whole different tangent. But to get back to what was it Doug's question about how I managed to find joy in it.
Yeah. How do you find joy in this?
It was challenging, to be totally honest with you. We moved here in June, end of June. And it was around May, June time period when we kind of realized, okay, we're not going to bike race. And at that point, I had some of the best fitness of my life, and I felt really happy with where I was at physically and in a bike racing state. And then I felt really comfortable with, okay, I graduated school. We're going to make a big change. I felt very excited for all that. And then because one of those dominoes toppled, it felt very much like, and I think everyone experienced it, but like pandemic depression. Like, it was cool that we moved, but I didn't feel like there was anything to look forward to after we moved. And so that was me from July until it first started snowing. And one of the biggest things with doing backyard cross in the snow was it was a competitive outlet for me in a fun, safe backyard way. Like Gage was up here, couple of friends that I grew up in high school with that race cyclocross, and we would just literally do 55-second laps around the backyard with a stopwatch and see who could go faster.
It's perfect.
And so it was like, well, I don't know where my fitness was at, but I was having fun competing and messing around and throwing snowballs at each other while each other were riding. And, and that was really fun and joyful. And then underlying that was like, well, we didn't get to do what we wanted to do. And so it was definitely a balance. It came and went, like the excitement came and went. But it was just the outlet I needed at the time to feel some competitive essence. Because at the end of the day, I'm very competitive.
Do you think? Yeah, right.
No one knew. Imagine that. And an elite professional bike racer.
Yeah, shocker.
Weird.
So was the genesis of all of that backyard stuff setting it up for the competitive space, or was it you trying to seek some form of joy and get something out of this?
It was both. Yeah, it was definitely both. We didn't start timing the laps for a while. It was kind of like
that would have happened like 15 minutes after you got it done. Like, all right, who's faster?
Because it was just me.
No,
that's just
you.
I would have timed myself. I would have I have to be myself.
Yeah, and I think it was just a way to put mental energy into improving something, right? And so at first it was just me riding around thinking about, okay, I'm going to shift 2 down before this corner because it's a high-speed corner. I'm not going to tap the brakes in the middle. Okay, this is a really low-speed corner. I need a lot of brakes here, but I need to take the wide apex line. There was a lot of stuff like that initially for myself that was like, okay, I can put my mental energy towards improving each of these laps and having fun and getting dizzy because I'm riding in my backyard for an hour.
Square.
And then once it was like, okay, well, this is now for 2 months straight, it was like, okay, I can think about how to race my bike in this really small scale, and think about late braking or, tire management and all these things that, let me feel some of that normality for the winter. And then we turned it into a competitive thing of like, oh, I guess we all needed this. And so it was really joyful in terms of like, it was a lot of energy that I had that I wasn't able to be using. And so to use it was really fun and exciting.
Okay, so that's fine. You're doing this. Y'all are backyard racing. And I think we all did this as kids, right? Like, like you build the ramp and you're like, who can get the most air? Whatever it is, right? Like we all did this in some fashion. Who can make it around the block the fastest, whatever. Why did you decide to be like, no, now I have to make sure the internet sees this because this seems like what I should do?
I think it was, like I said earlier, like okay, everyone is feeling like they need this. And I think it was more just to tell people, hey, you can do this. Like if you are feeling like you're cooped up and you don't have a way to
stuck at home,
exercise your competitiveness or your drive to improve or whatever it is, like, yeah, it's a minute in my backyard. Like you can walk out your back door and do that. it depends on how much you care about your grass or your yard, but you can do it, and I think that was part of the reason I put that out there, was just like, well, okay, if we're not going to go race bikes, why don't you ride bikes in your own yard
and make it fun?
Yeah.
I think that's important, like as a metric for people to think about their own world not being as small as they think it is. It is small, and that is fine, but you can still have fun within it, especially when we have been painted into these boxes for the past year of our lives. Like finding ways to do that. And I think it's really, I like, all kudos to you for figuring out that snow was the magic, like the magic thing you needed. And every time it would snow out there, I was like, here it comes.
I was pretty excited too.
Yeah.
It ended on a low note though, our backyard cross, because we got a 2-foot storm.
Oh yeah, that one was biggie.
We had like 28 inches in our front yard. And you can't really ride a bike in that.
You'd have to shovel first.
Even then, it didn't work.
But then you can't lean, and you're just taking away so much.
It was a disappointing end, I'll say that, because the first hour of us trying to ride this course, like I went out and shoveled, we were literally like riding above knee height in terms of snow depth next to us. And so the first hour was kind of like, okay, I rode a 5 feet. That's so cool. And then you'd have to walk and try to clip back in. And so it was really a disappointing end, but for the time we had, it was super fun. And I guarantee I'm going to do it again next year, because it's a perfect way to have fun at the end of a ride. And it's a perfect way to challenge yourself mentally, because it's not physically that hard, but mentally to create a challenging 1-minute course and then ride it well, you feel a really large sense of accomplishment over something that's entirely arbitrary.
Yeah.
I like that from the perspective of just thinking about how you can challenge yourself mentally, especially on something that like takes a different level of your brain. Talking about tire management, talking about what gear you need to be in, things that I don't know. I'm not a professional bike racer, but I don't even think about that crap when I'm 10 tenths on the cross course. I'm just like, this hill's big, down,
Air.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you're thinking about all that stuff, but to think about on a 1-minute course, like what a fun thing to like try to get better at doing and challenge your brain to think about getting better at doing.
Yeah. Cause I'm wondering if when you go back to racing, that having, like, I think about this, like I'm thinking about right now, some of the smaller indoor go-kart road courses that I've been to, where you have 17 corners in a 28-second lap. And it's just like you feel like you're in a video game because you have so much grip and things are coming at you so fast. And you can have this like 12-second swath of time from people that are just absolutely killing it to people that are just out there like driving around. And like you get to that sharp end of getting those last couple tenths and you're like, yeah, I'm doing something. Like I'm making the most out of this equation. So I'm wondering if you keep this up, if the races are going to start to slow down for you in that sense of that stuff all becomes second nature, and you then can focus on whether it's strategy or, breathing management or some of the other things that come with being in a bike race like that. And you can kind of turn off some of the technical stuff.
I've been very curious about that as well. I thought about that a lot. I was going to make a POV video of my backyard and walk through exactly, because it's a minute of stream of consciousness of thinking specifically about
that. You don't have time to like, this is my breaking point, this is my acceleration. Like if you think about it, it's too late.
Yeah. And I was going to do that, and then I just never did it. But I'm unsure if it'll translate that well, because this is such a micro scale. It's not a 6-foot wide course. And that's the biggest thing. Like if we think towards a race like Cincinnati, yeah, there's a fair amount of corners, but they're all 6 foot wide. And unless it's wet, it's really outside to inside to outside.
Right.
And so
it's a lot of wide open stuff.
Smash apexes.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how applicable it will be for the duration of the race. I think where it's extremely applicable would be thinking about it in pre-ride and finding a place to attack in the race that you have entirely dialed from a mental, like, this is the route that I break at on the outside of the course. And I need to hold traction through here and not touch the brakes because I'm going to catapult out of here and get an attack on. I think that's where it's applicable, but you also have to have a really high level of fitness before you can start applying tools like that. Because if your fitness isn't high, you're just going to sit on the wheel and suffer, and it doesn't even matter.
But you're going to smash apexes. Like, you're going to look really good doing it.
Yeah.
What if every cross course had a really, really tight, short section right in the middle of it? So it'd be like all these big corners, and then there'd just be this spot that was like a labyrinth, and you just had to like right through the labyrinth. I think this is where you would now excel if this was added.
Yeah, we need the Monaco. We need like a cyclocross version of Monaco.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Like corners, but then it's just like turn.
Right.
You know who wouldn't like that is Gage, because that was our biggest beef throughout the whole year.
Oh, really?
Was I designed all the backyard courses with a lot of tight cornering. And because I'm a seated acceleration person, I was able to do really well on a lot of tight corners because I didn't have to move. I could just maintain the same position and accelerate hard. And so as we got closer and closer through the winter, I started making the courses bigger and bigger. So like our first course had like 24 corners. By the final race, I think we were down to 13. And so the balance there really shifted, but you're right. I would love a course with a labyrinth in the middle. It'd be excellent.
And a Minotaur in the center to fight. And you got to fight the Minotaur and get out of there and then do another lap.
We're making our US version of cyclocross as we speak right now.
Yeah. No, actually, it's Greek if it's got a Minotaur.
Yes, I think you're right. But here's the other way that this is applicable. And you guys and I have talked about this, and we talked about it 2 years ago when we were at the race, is doing qualifying for cyclocross racing.
Hell yeah.
Something like we've just talked about is incredibly applicable to a 5-minute effort where every second matters. You would see a lot more creativity, intuition, and mental energy spent on a race weekend if there was something like that. And it'd be really cool to see.
I 100% agree. And I love that 2 weeks ago, I saw conversations with, I think it was Bill Strickland and Bill Scheiken. They've both been watching Drive to Survive on Netflix, the F1 documentary following the kind of background of the F1 stuff. I don't think anyone on this current recording needs any background on any of this stuff, but for anyone that has a Netflix account, go watch it. Whether you like auto racing or not, it's filmed amazingly, and you're going to learn a lot about auto racing. But they were having a conversation about how cool would it be to have qualifying on Friday nights with a band and with all of these other party things going on when we're back to normal.
One flyer, motherfucker.
You get one qualifying lap. And that's going to set the grid for the weekend. And you think about all of the stuff that would go into that. I mean, people would trot out custom wheels, frames, like everything about it would be, you would go in qualifying trim and every single foot of that course would matter. And it would be so fun to watch.
And then we got to weigh your bikes afterwards. We got to make sure your bottom bracket is an appropriate height. You got to go,
Parc Ferme.
Yeah, Parc Ferme, right? You got to go to Parc Ferme. It's like how it works. Like, you got to deal with this. We're going to measure your bike. We're going to make sure everything's within the specs. You got the right size tires, everything. But I'm going to put all my money on Ant if any of this goes down. Just the whole time, and he will totally be on pole position every time if it gets.
He's the wild card.
Yeah, no,
he is for sure.
So you have this crazy winter. We're all in this weird space. All this stuff's going on, but we're coming out of it now, and things are changing, and life is moving forward. John and I are vaccinated. You're halfway there. Zoe's fully vaccinated. Life is moving on and changing. And I know there's other stuff going on in your space outside of just bike stuff. But where are we now from bikes as well as like what's going on personally with y'all? Like what are the next big things on the horizon here for you as a racer, and as we move out of this pandemic for you and Zoe and Lily?
Hopefully bike racing's on the horizon. That's number one.
Well, yeah, number one.
I'll start by saying something I heard recently was that, and this is from that little Kate Courtney, Finn Isles downhill documentary thing.
Yeah.
They said in that, the narration said that 2020 was a year of chaos and complacency. And I 100% felt that. And that's what I feel like I'm trying to climb out of right now. Chaos in terms of the world around us, lack of control of what we can do on a daily basis, but also how safe we feel doing those things. So I felt a lot of chaos from that side. But then complacency, it's really easy to get complacent when there's no racing. I worked really hard when we were doing stupid timed laps around the backyard, because I wasn't complacent, because I wanted to improve. And so right now I feel like I'm really trying to climb out of this hole of chaos and complacency. As you said, the vaccine's one step closer to being away from chaos. And then the next thing I have to figure out for myself is, how do I move back into the space of being cutting edge and driving myself forward? And so that's the big next hurdle for myself personally, I think, as a bike racer is how do I get back on top of the horse and try to improve every day? And right now, one of those things that I'm doing is I'm coaching juniors, and found the perfect time for this. So I'm coaching high school age juniors that are 15, 16, and 17, 18s. They recently went to Arkansas to race those races. So they're at a pretty high level. They're racing at a UCI level. They're in my shoes when I was their age. And so it's really nice to, as funny as it is, to be a almost 24-year-old guy, have a 17-year-old kid breathing down your neck Tuesday, Thursday. That's been the thing that is pushing me forward to try to not be complacent, because, as bad as it is to say, I'll make gains a lot faster than those kids will, but it's a thing that I need to jumpstart that non-complacency again. And so that's really fun because they're racing at a high level too. And so I'm able to share some of my experience and be a mentor, and ride lead and learn how to lead that group and age group again. So that's a fun challenge right now.
So if we look back on the first part of this conversation and loop in this piece of the conversation, what have you taken from the experience with feeling out of your element with Alpha, and how are you applying some of those learnings, and what have you changed about kind of whether it's your approach or some of the discoveries that you made about yourself? How have you felt like those things have helped, those experiences have helped you move forward in this?
Yeah. And the first thing I'll say is that they're incredibly different circumstances, right? Like, I'm responsible for these kids' health and well-being. I'm now wilderness first aid and CPR certified and all this stuff. Like, if they get hurt on a ride, I'm responsible for getting them home. And so it's kind of a different dynamic to the Alpha thing, where it's like, I was not responsible for that there, but there are a lot of tie-ins. And one of those big tie-ins is I'm more comfortable making myself into a peer for these kids so that I can communicate with them. In some ways, I'm syncing my humor and my personality, not my personality, but my humor and my approach to interacting with them down to a place that they can stomach. It's not highbrow. It's not like telling them how it is. There is some of that because they're kids and like, hey, I have been in your shoes. This is your first UCI race weekend. Don't tell me how it is. I'm going to tell you how it is type stuff, for better or worse. But sinking myself down so that I can interact with them like a peer, but maintain that leadership point where it's, when I communicate something, I'm going to communicate it clearly and I'm going to hold you to that expectation. And then once we've gotten that out of the way and everything is going well and we're taking care of business and we're not having to jump over the hurdle of, okay, listen to me, I'm a leader, then I'm able to interact with them more on a peer basis and make funny jokes and joke around with them. And so that's been the biggest learning step from where I was with Alpha.
That's a big one as a manager, right? Like as a manager of people, that's a big one to make. And it's, I think we have to have those failures and those challenges. I don't want to say failure, those challenges trying to do those things to learn where there may be a chink in our armor, and we have to get better at it. And I love how you're approaching it with these kids. So you're working with these kids. What do you think the most, aside from 17-year-olds breathing down your neck up climbs, what do you think the most rewarding part of this this coaching piece that you're doing has been over the past several months?
The most rewarding part is obviously seeing them improve. I mean, having been in their shoes and being excited when you're keeping up with someone who's better than you, or you're improving on something, or you're making these bounds or going to a new race. That's really exciting. Like, I remember how I felt at that age, and to be a part of that is really fun. And then from the other aspect of that, my coach right now, his name's Andy. He runs this, it's called Cyclismo Racing. It's a group of, I think we have 18 kids. And so we have it split into 4 groups. We have a high level group, a medium level group, and then a more beginner entry level focused on racing. And then we have a group of 6 girls. And so being part of this larger community and helping to grow that, because I've been working with my coach for 10 years. And I didn't have a program like this where I could give back in that way. And I didn't have anyone doing that for me. And so that's super rewarding to be a part of that larger picture, in terms of like, okay, this town has a program that's focused on racing, but also mentorship and a lifelong love of progressing and riding your bike. And so that part is super rewarding.
So let me ask this. You said something interesting in that you didn't have that, but it makes me think back again, going back to, has this experience changed some of your lasting memories from time with Alpha and the things that Adam put together for you and the experiences that you were afforded within that specific experience?
In some ways, but it's also a really different scale. That was an experience that I feel like everyone on the team had earned through their journey through a program like I'm coaching now.
Okay.
Because this isn't, we're not giving anyone bikes. They're paying for kits. They're paying for their own entity.
Yeah.
So all these things, it's the stepping stones to a program like Alpha. And so I think that's one of the more valuable things that I can impart is, okay, I've been in your guys' shoes on these stepping stone paths. I also know what the next piece of that looks like.
Right.
And it's learning expectations and learning professionalism and learning how to dedicate yourself and show potential in the sport, even if it's not from a results standpoint.
Right.
Because people notice everything,
Yeah.
And if there's anything that's like, we talked through your story and what it looked like it's not that you don't go get the results, but your character is the thing that speaks the most for you as a person. The way that you hold yourself and the way that you conduct yourself is really it, whether you are on the podium or not. And I think that giving that experiential piece of it to these kids is super powerful. And it's awesome that you're finding so much value in that and that you're enjoying that piece of it. Cause I think that's going to continue to grow you as the person that you're going to be. We're just creeping on an hour here. And I want to make sure we get to the AMA stuff. So like, y'all have your home now. You're happy you're back in Fort Collins. All this is going on. What's kind of next, like in the immediate future? What are you looking at like 3-4 years down the road? What's happening with Brannan and the future plans. I mean, we're rolling into gloves off, let's go race bikes time. So what's up? What's happening? What's the plan?
Well, first of all, thank you for the nice compliments about my character. Secondly,
You're deserved.
I know you're trying to bait me into talking about what Zoe and I's plan for the next couple months is.
Oh yes, I do want to know about that.
But I can't. So we're going to move to a new property that my parents own here in town. Hopefully, fingers crossed that it all goes right. It's, the offer has been accepted and everything's happening that way. We haven't closed on it yet. So I'm trying we're not trying to get ahead of ourselves, but we're planning on it. Our plan is to grow as adults, and instead of get real jobs, plant vegetables and hopefully sell them.
Okay.
I don't know whether that's going to happen or how successfully that's going to happen, but that's the next 2 years from a non-bike racing perspective. And we'll see if that happens.
So are you guys looking at that as like full homesteading, to where you want to live off of what you guys are providing, or grow something specifically for kind of commercial use?
So the house we're at right now is a 1/4 acre in a neighborhood. And so we're not at the homesteading stage, but we have backyard chickens and we're planting vegetables now at this house.
You have chicken?
Yeah, we got chickens. Have you not
Doug,
seen my
you got to
chickens?
follow Zoe on Instagram.
Oh, I do, but I'm not that active on Instagram. I only like certain
I'll
things.
post more chicken content.
All right, cool. I'll go check out. We got lots of chickens.
I'll share it with him, Brandon. That way he sees it.
On the gravel.
We also have 4 baby chicks in the house right now, which is fun. So they are now 9 days old, 10 days old. So that's pretty cool.
Are you making Gage sit on him?
Mother hen.
Here's the deal. If you're gonna stay with us, there's only
You got to pull your weight.
have to do, and that's sit on these.
You're not winning these backyard bike races. You got to do something.
This sounds like an excellent photo because, our current chickens lay eggs and we have baby chickens. I could create an image that implies that Gage is hatching these eggs.
This
I like
sounds
it.
fantastic.
Let me get on this.
The
I
new
like
social media campaign for Gage.
Mother hen Gage.
Find the joy wherever you can get it. 2020, 2021. If you can find joy, go get it. Dang it.
Yes. So the property we're on right now is already, we're not subsisting on it by any means. And I know Zoe would like to more go the route of homesteading. But it's also unrealistic with bike racing and everything else we have going on now. What we'd like to do in the future, whether it's at the current property we're at or a different property, is we'd like to give back to the community in a different way than we are right now, which is providing food for people, right? Because it's one of those things that a lot of people don't think about on a daily basis. We are pretty terrible about it right now. I mean, we still go to the grocery store and buy meat, but we think a lot about it. We've been very cognizant of how we consume things. And to try to change that is something that Zoe's very passionate about and something that I'm warming to the idea of. And so no matter what happens in our future, that's something on a small scale that we'd like to be able to do, whether that's even just starting with selling our eggs that our chickens raise, or it's a larger scale CSA type thing. All that remains to be seen, but that's kind of the direction we are going as adults, is affording those opportunities to people so that they can interact with our chickens, see where their eggs come from, see where their food comes from. Because it's something that even we need to get better at, as Zoe and I. Like I said, we go to the store and buy crappy poultry and buy crappy meat and buy grocery store veggies. That's never going to change realistically from a worldview perspective, but to change that slightly in our own community does make an impact and does make a change for people. So that's kind of the short-term view of where we're going. And then I'd like to keep racing bikes, and a lot of that comes down to creating those relationships, like we've already talked about. And that's the biggest piece of it for me right now is learning how to create better relationships and still giving back to a community that is allowing me to do something selfish like go to bike races.
Right.
I think there's a good balance in that space that you can build your own unique carved out area where you're taking care of your local community, but also taking care of your more global bike racing community, because there is a lot of wisdom in the things that you've done over time. And you've had good mentors and great teachers in that space, and your head's in the right space, right? You're thinking about things in not necessarily like, how can Brannan extract resources from this thing? You're thinking about how can we do better by other people, whether it's you taking the lessons that you have and coaching these kids, or it's you and Zoe thinking about how can we provide for our community. You still want to do the things that bring you joy and the things that make you have fun and the things that you like want to achieve, those poster on the wall stuff, right? Like go out and win races. But there's a way to do that with eyes open and more holistic sense about what you're bringing back to places. And I like that that's where the two of you have kind of grounded yourself. Like it's not in, hey, what can this give me? But it's in, hey, what can nourish me, but what can I also nourish other people with?
Yeah. And like you said, there is a balance there. It's a very, very difficult balance to hit, right? Because I'm not going to say I was raised to be selfish, but bike racing has raised me to be selfish, right? Like
we've had so many athletes on the show, and it is no secret that being a professional athlete in any scape is an incredibly selfish endeavor. But I don't know if there's a more selfish sport that requires so much of an individual than bike racing. Like just the one person kind of consuming so many things around it just for kind of the growth and development. Like it just kind of is what it is to be at that pinnacle level.
Yeah. And to find the balance to retain the motivation. I'm not going to say retain the motivation, but cast off the complacency, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's really easy to do half the training and do half the work around the house and then lounge around. It's really easy to be complacent like that. It's a lot harder to do all the things whole-assed, and that's the balance that as I'm trying to shrug off some of that complacency from this last year, that's the thing I'm trying to piece together and to overcome, because it's also a large time investment to do all those things whole-assed.
God, I'm going to adopt this now. This is how I'm going to try to do my life, is whole-assed.
Do it whole-assed, not half-assed.
I back this. Like, thank you for like that's I'm going to put this on the wall, like above the door before I go outside every day. So I'm going to tap it and be like, do it whole-assed.
I'm going to send you a picture of our chickens, so you can get a poster with my chickens on it with a phrase that says, do it whole-assed.
Do it whole-assed. Perfect. As long as it's not anything coming out of the chicken's whole-assed, then I'm fine. I don't need to see that.
Okay, that might take a couple photos to get. But.
Yeah, that's too much. That's too much exposure.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Like this is like, it is every time you come on the show, like, it is so good to spend time with you because you are just such a good human and you give so much good out into the world. You like recenter myself. I know you recenter John. Like, you're just one of those people. We're so thankful that we get to have you back this season, and look forward to always following your journeys throughout all this. This is absolutely awesome. And that we're going to want you to leave the Pebbles with something important. So, whatever it is, what would you like the Pebbles to take home with them after the past, like, I don't know, year and a half of nonsense that we've had in our lives?
Well, the easy route here to go is do it whole-assed, but I also don't walk that walk enough to actually like preach that. But you know,
But there's honesty in saying that. Like having that on your wall is like, I want to check all the boxes, not just like check the box to get I worked today, check the box. Like no, every 5 minutes of that day there is a box to check, just like every interval is a box to check. Like that to me is the kind of aspirational thing, and like saying that you want to go do it is meaningful in the sense that you're at least telling yourself or telling the universe that I want to go get that. Now, whether you do or not is up to the actual execution, and then whatever grace you want to give yourself for not going whole assed.
well, and we can put an addendum on the poster then in parentheses underneath that says, and it's okay to sometimes do it half-assed in really small letters, but we can do that. I think that's the biggest takeaway is that there's over the last 2 years, year and a half, I guess, man, it's felt like 2 years. It's really hard to shrug off the blanket of whatever anxiety, depression, complacency, chaos, whatever you've been affected by, and finding an outlet that helps you to start to do that is kind of what I would say most people need to start working on now. Maybe I'm in the minority of people that haven't done that yet, but I doubt it. And so that's where I'd leave people is, trying to find something that is different than what it was before, most likely to help yourself move forward in that way.
I think that's good because and we even talked about it kind of in the green room today with you, and Doug and I were talking about it beforehand of just there's so many barriers in life right now. There's so many people that are walking around with 1,000-pound gorillas on their backs that I don't know what it is. You don't know what it is. But I think there's so much of just that understanding of telling ourselves, like, I see you. Like this is kind of what Doug and I were talking about before, is like understanding that pink elephant or whatever your animal of choice is for whatever thing is bothering you, acknowledge it. Look at it. I see you. Like I see you in the room, and I see that you're there, and I acknowledge that you're there, and understand that that's okay. Like he and I are constantly checking in with each other of like, and we've kind of swung back and forth in terms of he'll go through a bout of darkness, and then I'll go through a bout of depression, and then we'll kind of like always be there for each other, but always acknowledging that those things exist. But even when you're in the middle of that stuff, like acknowledging that it's still okay. Like you're still awake, you're still above ground, you still have the ability to go outside and see the chickens, or make fun of Gage, or whatever the thing is that brings you joy.
Everyone always has that option.
Yeah. It's just easy, right? It's kind of just there.
Is he
it's
home
waiting.
right now? Are we making fun of
No,
him?
he's not here.
He's not. Good. It's perfect. He's probably
He might be watching live though, but I doubt it.
He's
but-
at work. He's doing something. Who knows?
Yeah. But like just hearing, I think the more that we can put those things out into the world, you say them, I say them, Doug says them, we say them to each other, and just acknowledge that that this is all real, and these anxieties, these fears, these just struggles are all real. It's that is good. Acknowledging that those things exist is good, and then figuring out how to kind of unravel them as we go back to normal is going to be a challenge for a lot of people.
Yeah, because acknowledging them in a lot of ways is acknowledging something that you probably thought was a stupid reason to feel that way before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because that's what it is. It's not something you thought you'd feel a certain way about, but with enough time to sit there and think about it or not think about it and have it eat at you is like really hard to shrug off.
Yeah. It's
like I feel like if you don't come out of this pandemic with an understanding of what like mental health is, then you have not been like in touch with yourself. Like for those of us who struggle with anxiety or depression or any other things, like if the rest of the world has not like possibly been clued into it,
just acknowledge that it exists.
Yeah, that's
just
all.
the fact that it exists.
Yeah, for real. This should be a wake-up call for everyone.
Yeah.
That struggle with different things, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like what you said about just if the idea that you've been able to sit with this for so long. This is it's going to, I feel like the positive of this is it's going to be such a large reset button for so many things and so many people, that I like to think that after we get through, like, there's political anxieties, there's all of these things going on that is kind of cultural upheaval. But I like to think that as we start to get on the other side of those things, that we will be stronger communally, that we'll be stronger as humans and as a group, because we've argued and because we fought through some of these things and disagreed and come out to some sort of higher, better understanding. And maybe I'm being a little bit too woo-woo about that, but I like to be positive.
I'm with you. Let's be positive pigs.
I'm not going to join that happy train, but I will acknowledge that I hope it is like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the Brannan track here. Like, let's pray that that's what it's like. Probably ain't gonna be.
I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I just say I want to be hopeful that I think we can get there. Right now, we need to start at least acknowledging that the conversations need to happen.
Up with hope, down with dope.
I don't think you actually agree with that, Doug.
You're correct. I do. So we want to make sure. You're 100% correct. It's correct. It's one of my favorite lines from a movie. But at any rate, folks, we're gonna knock some AMA out with Brannan here. So stick around if you're on the live feed. We appreciate all you being here. As always, a huge thanks to all of you for joining us tonight. All of our Pebbles, old, new, whether it's first time because you just know Brannan and just been following Backyard Winter Cross, or you've been a long time Pebble. We're very thankful to having all of you here. Make sure that you click the like button, subscribe, do all that stuff. Go on our Patreon. Please support us. We cannot do this without your support. It is extremely important that we are able to bring this stuff through y'all that was like the most complex sentence.
You got that?
Yep, got it. Whatever. Patreon, do it. Done.
Hey, it's ad read time, so you know it's about to go off the rails.
Exactly.
So in addition to your guys' support kind of helping us do the things that we do, as Doug so eloquently just nailed,
uneloquently nailed,
we encourage you guys to go support the people that have been supporting this program and the things that we are doing for quite a long time. So follow the link in the show notes. Use the discount codes that we have. Go support these people because they're providing amazing products, but two, they're doing amazing things and giving back to this community, as we just discussed with Brannan, and they make awesome stuff. So just go get on it.
Yeah, and make sure you go check out BFRB Cycling, a Be-Free Ride Bike cycling apparel. They do custom apparel. They do off-the-rack apparel. Fantastic stuff. Everybody I know loves their chamois, loves their kit. It's fantastic. Matter of fact, a local group that is a team of hilarious folks got their kit made by somebody and then decided, because of pressure from their members, that they needed to do another kit reissue with BFRB stuff.
That's a great chamois pun that you just made, and I don't think you really actually realize that you're doing it.
I did.
Okay, good.
I did. It was
that makes
good.
It better.
It was kind of just right underneath.
Ruined your flow,
but make
that's
sure
fine.
you go check out bfrbcycling.com and get yourself or your team sorted out with all the apparel you need to return to competition or just hanging out with your friends and looking dope on your bike. So check them out and help us provide you with amazing gear.
We also encourage you guys to go support Dan and the things that everybody at Grimper Brothers products and coffee is making. Go look through their website at grimperbrothers.com now. They have tons of different blends, whether you're looking for coffee, espresso, decaf, super calf, whatever you're looking for. Dan probably has something that is the perfect choice for you, but within each one of those different blends, it is going towards giving back to whether it's an athlete, an event, a cause, something like that. So in terms of putting, your money where your mouth is, Dan is out there doing it. He's out there advocating for safe bike racing, for more equality, for all of the things that a lot of people are fighting for right now. Dan is always very, very active in doing all of those things, but also supporting them with actual dollars and cents. If you follow the link in our show notes, go to grimpoolbrothers.com now. If you subscribe to the actual coffee subscription service, you will end up getting 1 free bag of coffee per year. And that is amazing coffee that is all hand roasted, small batches every week. So much done by hand that you actually get handwritten notes on the USPS mailer when it shows up to your house. So
It's like
like
the
you
best
can't
moment.
get any more personal than that.
No.
You open the mailbox and you know when your Grimpool brothers showed up because the whole mailbox is just being permeated by these freshly roasted coffee beans.
And there's like Dan smiley faces and stuff all over.
Hearts and yeah.
It's wonderful. We're also supported this week by our awesome friend Mitch at BioWheels Fit Studio right here in Cincinnati, making sure that you have the best, most holistic fit on your bike. Go check him out if you need a bike. He's got the full list of what's coming in, what's on the boats, when it's going to get here. He will get you sorted out, and then he'll get you fit expertly to your bike to make sure you have the most comfortable and powerful cycling experience that you want or need. And that is Mitch's bag, without a doubt. He is known throughout the Midwest and the region for being an exceptional bike fitter. So make sure to check out BioWheels Fit Studio and make sure that you visit the famed hall where we first met Brannan Fix.
Actually, yeah, that's
where
true.
we first met him.
Yeah, right
So,
up the road
Go
here.
Go visit BioWheels. Brandon's been there.
I was wearing a button-up shirt even.
You were. We
How
have
you know it's a classy joint.
Yeah, it was so very classy.
Yeah, looking super pro. Yeah, they had like the cheese and fruit plate too. That's when you know you're at like it's a big deal. Yeah, it's getting nice. And if you're looking for more comfort, look no further than the Ritual All Natural Skincare, which is small batch handmade chamois cream, custom blended for your team or your shop right here in Cincinnati using locally sourced vegetable oils, vegetable butters, things like that are actually from the earth, that are good for your skin, that are nourishing, that are hydrating, that are all of the things that regular chamois creams are not. And again, they are all made locally here by lovely Mitch Graham's wife, Kate, who has taken over this business from me, and she's doing an amazing job. And the cool thing that she added is now you can do custom branding for your team, for your shop, or for yourself. If you want to get your own custom blended chamois cream, you can pick the scent, you can pick the menthol, you can pick the logo, you can pick all that different thing. You can change the color of the tub, you can do all that stuff, and you can make it yours. If you want to know how to do that and get in touch with Doug or myself through all of the different channels from the Gravel Lot or us personally, and we can point you in the right direction on how to learn more.
I'm going to make chamois cream that smells like stale cigarettes and High Life.
I think that's chamois cream that's gone bad.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, this was a period of my life, and I would like to recreate it in chamois cream. Can I get it done, John?
Sure.
Okay,
We can get there.
Yes. All the fragrances you may ever need, if that's what you're looking for. Also, a massive thanks to our friends at Hand Up Gloves. We love Hand Up. Awesome folks. Fantastic. Now released, if you have little Groms that need gloves, Hand Up Gloves has gloves for Groms. And they also have gloves for good, gloves that are out there supporting awesome causes. We are so thankful and appreciative for Hand Up for being with us right since the very jump. They've got gloves for snow, bike, golf, all sorts of things. It's golf season. If you haven't been golfing, I mean, maybe you should go out and use your regular Hand Up gloves or use their golf gloves. I have both. So any rate, make sure to go check them out at handup.com. Click the link in the show notes. That will get you to their website. And if you enter code Pebble $sign at checkout, you can save yourself 10% off everything in store. That's handupgloves.com. Thank you to Troy and the crew. We love y'all. Awesome to have you aboard.
I feel like I want to respond to every one of your ad reads. Groms are little kids.
Yes.
By the way, for anyone that didn't know. Also, gloves. Golf makes you crazy. Golf makes you want to break things. Maybe it's just me. Maybe that's N of one. But I know other people that have wanted to break stuff.
Bikes make you want to break stuff too. It's okay.
No. See, that's the beauty of having long legs and being able to put out power. You just take it out on the bike. It doesn't really matter.
All right, now away from John's personal problems, we would we love hearing from
Oh,
all.
you're just gonna keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's right. It's how it works. We love hearing from all you Pebbles. We love having you join us on the show every single week. Make sure to visit all of our social feeds. We're at the Gravel Lot on pretty much everywhere you need to be. Go to thegravellot.com to stay up to touch and up to date, and make sure to join all of our live shows on Tuesday on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Streamlabs, and engage with us and get questions in there so that we can ask all of our guests all of that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. Our new intro and outro music is from Wadaboy, so many thanks to him for the jams. You can find him on all of the major platforms, or you can click the link in our show notes. I really think that it's kind of changed the whole the kind of vibe of our show with having that in the green room, in the waiting room, and having it as the intro music. And it's one, it is very different from the heavy metal, but two, I think it also is, I think it's positioning us correctly.
Sure, I'm here for vibes. We're all about the vibes. All about the vibes. So, Brandon, you ready to tackle a couple AMAs?
Sure.
All right.
I'm a little nervous.
It's okay. It's good to be nervous. It's like good nerves. It's like when you're getting ready to go on stage, right? And things are kind of shady. Like when I was in theater school, there was like, if you don't get nervous before you go on stage, you got a problem.
Yep.
All right. First one is this. What is your favorite venue to have ever raced cyclocross in, and why?
Ooh, that's a good one, actually.
That could be divisive.
It's his opinion. It's not necessarily a fact.
Well, I'll make no small fact known that I prefer a flat venue. Personally, I like flat courses. People will disagree with me. They'll say it's not technical. They'll say it's not a true test, whatever. I like flat courses, especially when it rains. But that being said, I think, okay, well, venue, this is a tough one then, because my favorite race that I've done is Louisville when I got second at nationals.
Yeah, that was a good race. Yeah.
Because
that was not flat.
No, that's why I prefaced that with saying I would prefer it. But Louisville had a special feeling in terms of how heroic it felt and the buzz around it that weekend. So as a snapshot point in time, I would say that's probably my favorite venue because it was just an epic weekend. But you're not going to recreate it necessarily.
Sure.
And so from a recreatable standpoint, my favorite venue, that's a much, much tougher question to answer. And one, to be honest with you, that I don't know if I can. That might be a cop-out, but it's hard to find one that's consistently.
But I think that's like your answer with Joe Creason Park and Louisville Nationals said a lot, because it wasn't necessarily the venue by itself. It wasn't necessarily the course by itself. It wasn't necessarily the atmosphere by itself. It wasn't necessarily the weather by itself. But when you spin all of those up, I think anybody that's there or that was there takes away this. It was greater than the sum of its parts type vibe of being at that event. Like, we were both there the whole weekend. Neither of us raced, but it just felt different than other big events that we've been to, whether it's Pan Ams, whether it's other national championships, whether it's when Worlds were even here. I think just Worlds is its own thing at Louisville, but I think honestly, if you want to compare the two, I think Joe Creason Park is better than where they had the Worlds course at, but that's just me. But I think it's that combination. So if you're trying to just compare, say, Kings to Valmont or to Ruts and Guts or something like that, like, you're not factoring in fans, you're not factoring in weather, you're not factoring kind of all of those different pieces. But I think that's what cyclocross is like, it is all of those things coming together. And I think that Joe Creason Park 2018 won, or like, how did they even label that? 2018 2. Okay, yeah.
Because it was,
I always get that confused.
Reno the year before? Where was it?
Yeah.
But it was the same year. right?
Yeah, it was in
Yeah.
December instead of January.
Yeah. That whatever.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let me quick answer on this. Is there so if we're going to just say venue, right? Is there a place that you've enjoyed racing in multiple different conditions, right? Like you've been back to the same place and you enjoyed it as much as you did in a different condition?
I would say the top two front runners then are Cincy and Ruts and Guts. Cincy, because I always liked the course. I wasn't a huge fan of Davoo, and I think that some people would take that as controversial, but wasn't a huge fan of it. I really liked the golf course. The golf course is pretty fun for me.
Camel's always fun.
But what makes the Cincy race is the atmosphere. And the weather, changing conditions. Like it's a really good atmosphere and it's a good race. From a course standpoint, it's fun to go to Ruts and Guts because it changes every year. And there's some features that you don't get, like creek crossings and random stuff. So that's pretty fun.
Yeah, I always thought they did a really good job of kind of thinking outside the kind of UCI box of building courses.
Yeah, or even the US box.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next one. What is the biggest project that you have thus far had to tackle as a homeowner? Aside from your backyard CX course, that's not a home project.
So
yeah, that's not like everybody on the block is.
That's not get up Saturday morning and go to Home Depot and do home improvement.
Okay, so I'll preface this by saying this house that we're at right now was built in 1966. It's a track home in the middle of urban Fort Collins, and prior to that, it was rented by college kids.
Oh boy!
So it was maintained well from a property like. Yeah, the walls needed to get painted and stupid stuff like that. But there's no problem with piping, electrical, any of the major things that would have to happen. The roof got replaced right before we moved in, so there's no leaks, and who cares if there is? I might be moving soon. So this house has not been a challenge. The house that Zoe and I lived in college was built in 1924 in downtown Grand Junction, had a half-finished basement, and there were roaches, and the sewage line was made out of clay. So that was a project every week, more or less. Mm-hmm. None of them were that huge, but I had to say the largest pain in the ass that we did on that house was replacing the shingled siding.
Oh God.
So for anyone that's unaware, shingled siding is like siding, but each piece is individually bolted onto the house.
I remember, I feel like she might have posted something when you guys first started this project, and both of you seemed really excited about starting it. And I was like, good luck.
That's like 3 days of my life I'll never get back.
Nope, gone.
For little to no gain.
Right.
Yeah. It did not increase the sale value. Yeah.
No. So most of it was like minor cosmetic stuff, like, actually, that's a lie. I just remembered. We gutted the entire basement bathroom and redid it. So that was actually a really big project.
Yeah, bathrooms are big.
But because it was it wasn't like sitting out in the sun getting burnt, literally stapling on pieces of wood to your house for 3 days. That one doesn't feel as memorable, but it was equally difficult. But there was just a lot of minor upkeep at that house that was very frustrating, to say the least. I mean, the plumber came over so much that we were on a first name basis. I called his cell phone.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
It's bad when.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. They have you on. Yeah. I get that though. Like, Doug, your house is early 1900s?
1890.
That's right. And then mine is right around that same 1928 time period. And there's lots of things in the 10 plus years that we have lived here that have been seared into my memory. Very similar to you being baked outside.
Home ownership.
Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about bike racing and talking about the future. What does, more specifically, is that staying more focused on cross and mountain bike, on? Is there any like road, gravel? Like where does your head lay when it comes to all that stuff?
100% focused on cross, to be totally honest. And the biggest challenge there is finding the right balance of preparation going into it. This is a conversation that someone like Gage and I have had a lot. To be 100% focused on cross in America basically means messing around and riding mountain bikes and gravel bikes in the summer, right? But for Europeans at the highest level, that's not the prep. They're racing 50 stage race
Right.
days in a year. And
Yeah.
so my focus is 100% on cross. But then the other aspect of that is, how do you progress internationally in the summer in the US if you're not doing that? And so
Right.
that's a weird secondary focus that isn't necessarily on the results of those things, but on the effectiveness of the preparation.
Yeah, process side.
So to that, are you trying to put something formal together for some sort of spring, summer like program?
Not really. At
Not
this
yet?
point, I'm in the mess around and do mountain bike races and gravel races. The other thing is there's just not enough high quality racing in the US in the summer
Yeah.
that wouldn't conflict with cyclocross in the fall to make that happen.
Yeah. It's catch as catch can right now.
Yeah.
Right. There's who knows what's actually really happening. We're just starting to have events, so everything's going to be shook up.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, everything's going to happen in September.
Right.
I mean,
Everything.
You look at Gila, it's in October this year or something. I think they
Yeah.
canceled Redlands, but that was supposed to be in August. And basically everything that was road and high level got pushed back to the fall.
Right.
And then mountain bike's a different story, but it's also a different type of preparation than doing road racing. So cross 100%. But how I prepare for that in the future, my focus there will probably change, hopefully.
Oh my God. This is what happens. I'm sorry to laugh in the middle of you thing, but I'm reading ahead for the next question and it's so brutal. Oh God.
That's why I told you I was scared.
It's so good. It's so good. I'm just gonna read this one verbatim because I don't know who sent this in, but it's perfect. What do you think the best part about having Jake Wells was for you personally?
Part of me likes to imagine that Jake sent that in.
Part of me wants to imagine that Jake sent this in.
So if it is Jake, I really don't want to give him an ego boost.
No, just tear him down. Just tear him down.
Well, we can ask the opposite side of this next.
What's the worst thing?
What's the worst? Yeah. Just
I can't think of a worst. I
just to keep
personally
him-
can't think of a worst.
You got to keep him grounded though.
Other people in my household would think of a worse. Worst thing about Jake for me is that we call it the Jake mood in our house. And I think Zoe, Gage, Katie, even Adam and my dad would all acknowledge that it is a thing. When you get really riled up and you just start making a lot of funky sounds and having a lot of fun, it's kind of the Jake mood. So as an outlet, that's a really fun thing for me. And it was really fun to have. But other people might also say the inverse, that it's the worst thing about me hanging around Jake. So
I imagine that is like a
Think as
dog
you
that
will.
gets the zooms. Like when a dog gets real excited and they just run around the house really like with their tail tucked down and they're just hauling ass everywhere.
yeah. And it's typically driving to or from races or getting Dairy Queen at 9 p.m. on Sunday night. It's pretty much like the timetable of that.
Yeah,
one.
Got it.
that's good. I back this. You gotta have friends like that in your life that let you just feel that and cut loose. It's real
Yeah.
important. I feel
Especially when you're already tired from a long weekend.
Yeah.
Right. That's when real you comes out. Like there's you can't
No filter.
you can't play the filter anymore. You're just like, I don't even care. This is just what it is.
It's gonna happen.
All right.
Yeah, that happened a lot.
Last question, and we kind of already prefaced it talking about the dog. Now that you have Lily, how has getting her changed you as a person?
It's a good question. I think from the outside, a lot of people would say that I've become more like lovey-dovey, if that's the right word. But I've always been like that. Like I really am like a sweet softy guy that's like, oh, you're so cute, and like willing to like go out of my way to do stuff to like, you know, take her out to go to the bathroom when it's really cold, as an example, like, you know, like, or just baby her, or, you know, but I've always been that person in terms of my everyday life. So that really hasn't changed with me with getting the dog. The biggest change and thing that's helped me is just like being able to slow down and sit in the backyard and watch her walk around with the chickens, because she is amazingly able to be unattended in the yard with all 4 chickens wandering around, which is crazy because all she wants to do really is eat their poop. So she's totally cool with not bothering them. She'll just follow them around, and
That's a whole nother level of dogs being gross that I hadn't even thought about.
Gross.
I've got 3 of them.
It's pretty disgusting, but
Yeah.
you know, being able to sit in the backyard and watch her roam around and hang out and like do funny stuff and be a dog is like really a nice outlet during the middle of your day. That's really fun and sweet.
And I gotta believe, as somebody like we're talking earlier, somebody that's, you kind of have to be, excuse me, when you're training or when you're kind of building volume or something like that, you kind of have to be a little bit type A, to where everything has its time and place and everything has to kind of fall in order. But being able to have that, I would imagine, offers a really nice balance to the kind of strains of putting training plans together or doing everything whole-assed, as we were discussing a little bit ago.
Yeah, and honestly, not much in the world beats seeing her reaction when you come home. It's so precious. Like her whole body wags, and like she follows you around for 20 minutes, and it's really, really touching. And I've enjoyed that a lot.
It's those unscheduled moments, right? Like John's talking about the schedule, right? It's the unscheduled moments that dogs give you that are just so wonderful, because you're like, you have no freaking clue that I need to be at work 10 minutes ago. Like they're just like, but I need pets. Oh.
Yeah.
And it's just a wonderful piece of it. I love that you enjoying her being in her space is a thing that's been good for you. So,
and she's cute as hell. So,
Pebbles, you didn't get to see her on the broadcast, but we got to see her before we started recording. So,
before we actually saw Brannan, that was Lily was first.
Yeah. All pets to Lily. We'll send her for sure. So, well, dude, this has been fantastic. What a blast to get to spend some time again. We hope to see you in Cincy in the fall, campaigning your bicicleta through the Cincinnati, whatever weather we happen to have.
Changing weather.
You better make it rain.
We definitely, I mean, come on. Yeah, it'll definitely rain.
If that's our deal, I'll be there.
All right. Well, I'll do my best. I'll like hire some people to like.
If not, we'll just go to the bank and get a bunch of ones.
Yeah.
Ooh. There's multiple meanings.
We'll make it rain somehow. Somehow we will make that happen.
Afford ones, nickels.
But for the
ouch. Just don't put it in a sock, please.
For the time of year here in the Ohio Valley,
it's a good bet.
2 days. You're here for 48, 50 hours. It's going to rain at some point.
Hey, we got places for y'all to stay. All you need to do is reach out to your contacts that you've established out of all these years. And we got host housing.
And we know where the burritos are.
Yeah,
that's good.
So, well, Brandon, thanks so much for spending a few hours with us and hanging out, man.
Yeah. Thank you guys. I appreciate catching up with you guys. Like, you guys are so fun and you have such an energy, and it's really a treat to get to bounce shit off the walls with you guys.
Absolutely. Always with you for sure.
Yes.
So Pebbles, it's awesome to have all of you this week as well. That is all for this week. So be sure to subscribe, follow, and engage, because as you know, decisions and trails are made by those who show up. So if we don't see you this week, we'll see you next time. Bye, John.
Bye, Doug.